Welcome to 5 Strat Weekly. Another OG Atlanta United player is being linked with a move away. We break into that rumor as well as all the news and more coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Strat fam. I'm AJ and this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become a member of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. This video is sponsored by Buru Buru Sushi. Buru Buru Sushi is a Japanese-inspired fast casual eatery that offers ramen, sushi burritos, and poke bowls. Buru Buru delivers cuisine that's ethical, delicious, and fast. Guests can create their own rice bowls and sushi burritos through an array of fresh vegetables, marinated meats, and quality sauces. Also now serving a collection of traditional Japanese ramen. Atlanta United's first preseason match of 2020 was played ever so close to the first watchable match, but first, the reports of Tito Villalba, which I think, a lot of it, if you follow the team closely, yeah, he's probably linked with a move away at some point, but now it's reported by AJC that he is likely to go to a Paraguayan club. And then also Roberto Rojas chimed in with some sources in the Paraguayan area saying that it might be Cerro Porteño or Libertad. So, that's very interesting because Cerro Porteño, at least in that regard, there are a couple players that reportedly, at least, Atlanta United are interested in. Arzamendia being more of the likelier of the two. But a lot of fans are broken up about Tito Villalba, this rumor, and I think the likelihood of it being probably very true. And so, the prospects of him leaving, where does that leave? In your eyes?
Well, I think a lot of it isn't really shocking. He struggled last year for fitness, and especially once the system changed to a back three, it's not a system that he naturally fits into. He's not a wing back. We saw at the NYCFC away game. He just doesn't track back. When he's playing, with a fullback behind him, sometimes he will track back and give that work rate, as we saw under, Tata and Frank at some limited times. I don't think it's shocking. He's a player that wants to get into the Copa America squad for Paraguay this summer. He wants to play more minutes. He's on a large salary. You don't keep a guy making $800,000 plus a year on your bench. Clearly, he's not comfortable with that second striker role or being the backup there, so I understand that. And like you said, if you're doing business with, say, a Cerro Porteño, there's a couple guys we'd like to get out of there. I would trade a Villalba for a Villasanti in a heartbeat, but like you said, Arzamendia is the more likely of the two to come. I think playing in Paraguay would be great for him because it gives him, the FA there, an up-close and personal view of him and his talents. And I'd love to see him playing in the Copa America. But as far as Atlanta United goes, there were reports on this in The Athletic far back as December, which also mentioned LGP and Gressel being shopped. And guess what? Both of those two guys have already gone. So it wouldn't shock me. It would be sad, but I understand it. And at the end of the day, it's what's best for his career. And I think as opposed to the other two, this move makes a lot more sense in regards to his playing time.
Right. And so in terms of, an outside sale of MLS, that's where I think it's smart on Atlanta United's regard because, yes, I think there can be a fairly sizable transfer fee for a Villalba because he is, I think, for any MLS side, a probable starter for them. And so I think, there is some sort of sizable amount that you can get. And so with those reports as well is that Libertad is probably the more likely of the two as well in terms of those two sides because of kind of a link in terms of the Paraguayan, like at least a former Paraguayan manager in Ramon Diaz. And so, there is kind of more of a likelihood that, if you play for that type of side and that type of manager, then you might be able to get into the Paraguayan side a little bit more likely. And so there is, of course, just the sadness, of course, if Villalba would leave, but I think a lot of people see the writing on the wall. But there is a possibility that he still could kind of play a part in at least being a right winger if we play with four men in the back, or definitely a second striker at times, or even the backup striker to Joseph, because I think next to anybody else, he's pretty much got the most kind of like for like, for the most part, maybe not the hold-up play like Joseph Martinez has, or heading of the ball, but definitely some of the pace, definitely kind of the finishing ability is definitely kind of there. So it's hard. It's a hard one for a lot of fans to take, but it is a very real possibility that it could happen, and I think a lot of people can see the writing on the wall. But
yeah, I think for me, one of the big things though that's disappointing about him moving on is he is a very different type of player to a lot of the players that are on Atlanta United. Guys like Pitti and Barca, they can fit into a divorce system in terms of passing and moving and stuff like that. Tito Villalba is a very direct player. I like that in players, just the type of player that I like to see in the teams and the styles of football that I like to see played. I like when you run up guys, cut inside, make things happen, and he's the best player on the team for that. And it's always good to have that second option. But again, I think it just all comes back around to Tito Villalba wants what's best for him in terms of playing time, and I don't think he can justify being a backup. And especially $800K a year, that's a massive amount of salary to open up if you're having trouble finding someone to play that number 8 role that Atlanta United keep talking about. And do you trade, getting rid of a Villalba who's not going to be a starter for a potential high salary starter in the middle of the park? I think that's a deal you have to make.
Right, and it's not like we're actually hurting for Tam either, though. And so I understand maybe some of the fans in their frustration of why do we need to make this deal. But it is also, I mean, Tito Villalba wants guarantees of playing time, and he wasn't guaranteed that. And so, like any player that wants to play for their national team, he's probably going to want to
start games.
Yeah, he needs to start games, and he needs to show what he's capable of. And what he's capable of is double-digit goals and assists like he showed in 2017. And so that's very, very important that, I mean, this is, he's not that far removed from that. I mean, 2018 was a pretty, up and down season, but in 2019, obviously, kind of injury marred. But the potential is absolutely still there. He's only 25. And it seems like, he's been around for a while, but he's only 25. And so he should be entering his prime. There should be a pretty penny, at least, I think, for his services. But moving on from that, Franco Escobar has also reportedly interested Argentine side Racing Club. Basically, Racing Club manager Sebastian Becasese told Class AM 590 that the club is looking for reinforcements at fullback, and former DC United player Leonardo Jara of Boca, who has returned to Boca after a loan spell at DC United, is probably the kind of number one target that they're seeking, but Franco Escobar was named along with another one of those guys. I think interest is good in our players. Whether the actual likelihood of him actually being sold, that's probably very low.
Yeah, this is a cold water one for me. He offers too much to this club in terms of the positions he plays at. He is a nailed-on starter for any position in the back on the right side of the defense, whether it's a 3-man backline or a 4-man. He starts. He's on a good salary for Atlanta United. There is, for me, a 0% chance he leaves. This is one of those rumors where South Americans, from what I've seen, just love to just throw out names. They're not afraid to be like, hey, we'd like this person, whereas that's not really a thing that you get in the American market. But I just don't see a player like Franco Escobar leaving. And after you lose the shithousery of LGP, your next closest guy is Franco Escobar. So
and you need some shithousery.
You need some shithousery in the side, and he's got that Joker tattoo, and he's got to live up to it. So I don't want him leaving.
That's true. And this is coming from a guy that maligned.
Yes,
Franco
I have
Escobar.
very much maligned Franco. He has flaws that irritate the piss out of me, but when he's playing well, especially if we can get playoff Escobar for a whole season,
he's unplayable.
He is a unplayable guy, and he just destroys people, and I love that version of him.
Yeah. And so, it really comes down to consistency with Franco Escobar. And so, whether he's played as a right center back or somewhere along the back line or as a right wing back, I mean, definitely he has so many, attributes that you love, and that you really need. And so, I think it definitely is kind of very much very unlikely, but stranger things have happened. Anyway, moving on from that, another signing has been announced in Jake Mulroney, and
I just keep thinking of Jay Riddle's video, which if you haven't seen, please go look it up. It's funny and it's only 50-something seconds long, but
hilarious. But you can't ever think of Mulroney ever the same.
See Jay saying Mulroney over and over again. That's all I got.
But anyway, so he comes from a transfer from Heart of Midlothian FC in the Scottish league, and he's a 23-year-old. He's a winger. We were linked to him pretty much in kind of mid-December-ish, or maybe right before, it was like Christmas Eve, I think. Yeah, and so either way, the deal finally transpired after an entire month. But and sometimes it takes that long to kind of get the deal over the line because of a lot of different factors, and it could be a squabble over contract, squabble over transfer fee. But it seems to be that it's in the six-figure range in terms of a transfer fee. Like, do you like the transfer?
If it's a low fee and you're not paying him that much, a couple $100K a year, thereabouts. If it's a low risk signing, I get it. He wasn't playing because he'd been dropped by the manager. Hearts are doing terrible, and they're probably going to get relegated from the Scottish Premiership. And the comments I've seen from some Hearts fans that have been in the mentions haven't given him the most glowing of recommendations.
Yeah. There was that incident with his headphones where he
warmed up with AirPods.
Yeah, he warmed up with the AirPods, forgot that he had them in, and was on the pitch with them, and it was on a derby day, and
it's not going to go over well.
Not going to go over with fans, nor probably teammates or the coaching staff. But I think maybe this is redemption, and him in terms of his attributes. I mean, he's a pacey guy, likes to take on players.
He plays a wing back on the right and the left.
Right, and he's left-footed, but I mean, some of the goals that we've seen him score, it's with his right foot. So I mean, maybe he's fairly ambidextrous as well, and so I think it's a good potential in the signing, and especially with the potential leaving of Tito Villalba, we have a pace merchant at least, kind of another guy on the squad that at least can do that. So I think it's at least
I think it's a low risk, potentially high reward signing at the what you got. And again, it's something that we'll touch on later with Carlos Bocanegra. It's a salary cap league, and sometimes you just have to find these things where you move the money around and try to get quality throughout the squad as best you can, and sometimes that unfortunately means sacrificing some players, especially ones that have become fan favorites.
Right, but maybe he might become a fan favorite for for us as well, and so
who knows?
Welcome to Atlanta, Jake Mulroney. But Mulroney. But so Carlos Bocanegra also had a lot to say about why they made the moves that they have during this off season. Won't get into the entire bit, but to give a gist of it is that, yes, we are in a salary cap league. It is really when a player outperforms their contract, it's difficult to give them a raise. Julien Gressel, especially after he wins Rookie of the Year, like a lot of clubs around the world would probably, if their player was performing really, really well in that early spell, they would give them a bumper contract that would really just probably double or triple and exceed what they are making.
If it wasn't a salary cap league, we would have gave them one 2 years ago.
Exactly, and that's really the difficulty here. And so there's so many limits, and that's what he's talking about. Is that it's just something that has really kind of fueled the type of moves that they've had to make. Whether though it's justified in maybe how it's maybe gone about, highly question a lot of that, because in terms of losing all these high profile, at least Atlanta United fans and fan favorite, it's I think there needs to be some finessing for the fans here, because to lose so many, and not only through direct sales, but also retirement with Parkey, with someone that is looking to move back to their hometown, and Jonathan Nagbe. Yeah, there's a key contingent in Atlanta United that have moved on, and that's it could even increase with Tito Villalba, and that's never going to sit well with any fan base, I feel like.
I think the important thing here is that when you trade/sell one of your all-time favorite players, it's not ideal, for as much as we love it, when the club president tweets about a backup striker that you announced that same day, and it doesn't really help that backup striker because they're probably only going to get a negative reception because of the situation, and considering that player's history, regardless with the team, didn't sit well with some fans, and so it's like timing kind of important. And then the next thing you do is announce, albeit incredibly adorable, and Spike the dog, but it's just like there's got to be a bit of a touch there. And for me, I think it was one of those things where usually pretty good on the social medias, but it was a little bit tone deaf or maybe a little bit just out of touch with how everything was going in terms of how you announce those things. I think, like you said, that has to be done with the finesse. And, you know, from some of the things we've heard about, you know, the front office not communicating directly with players at all, yes, I get that sometimes that doesn't happen, but you like to hope at least that there was a, you know, thank you for everything you've done, you're welcome back anytime, arm on the shoulder, thank you for your service type of thing, which the best clubs usually do, whether it's a United or a Man United or an Arsenal in their better days, or now a Liverpool or whatever. When a player leaves and they've done well, it's like, thank you, you're welcome back anytime, we really appreciate what you've done, and you leave on good terms. And it seems
kind of
like,
cold.
And it seems kind of cold from both Gressel and LGP, that there's been a little bit that's been left unsaid that's maybe soured the relationship a little bit. And for me, that doesn't sit well because you'd like to see it handled a bit better, but at the same time, you know, it's one of those natures of the game where it has to be a bit cold at times as well. So we'll see, but I don't think the club necessarily helped itself in making fans a bit more relaxed about the situation.
Definitely not. And so, you know, moving on from that, we'll kind of touch on what we had initially planned for the next topic, but so we'll go back to it. Has something to do with Joseph, just a teaser. But so yeah, with Julien Gressel, and in terms of why he was moved on, I mean, you know, he had conversations with Extra Time Radio, he had conversations with the Washington Post and some of the Athletic in terms of some of his quotes, and really it seems like for how it transpired in terms of the trade, he seems to have sat out the first day of preseason, and so with that, I mean, it was with a kind of in mind to kind of force something to happen, because I mean, he was feeling disgruntled, it seemed like, in terms of his contract. He said that he would be pretty unhappy if he had to play on this contract that he was on the entire year, and so he wanted something to happen as soon as possible. Atlanta United apparently did kind of heed his wish and did pretty right by him in terms of kind of honoring, kind of making a move for him and within MLS, because he told Extra Time Radio that there was kind of interest from European clubs, but it wasn't very serious. And so, that being said, he wanted to, kind of play for the teams that were interested in him from MLS. And I think that's, for him, that's, I think, he's looking out for himself. It's wise. He's looking out for his family. He wants to get his money. It's kind of a F you pay me type of thing, and which is fine. I mean, that's totally, I think, justified for Julien Gressel to do that. Also very interesting in the Extra Time Radio thing is that he said that he never saw himself as any lesser than the DP players that we had, or the big name players that came in on big transfer fees. That he always thought of himself as one of the stars, that he wanted to be propped up there. And so, and he thought that his production on the pitch kind of exemplified that. And I mean, definitely, I mean, he's our assist king, definitely in our short history. He's definitely produced when he's on the pitch, but I mean, is this, does any of this kind of, rub you any of the wrong way, or is it hunky-dory?
Well, I mean, I think some of his quotes and how he's handled himself, for me, have rubbed me a little bit of the wrong way. There's another quote he said when talking about Joseph, maybe he wouldn't have scored some goals if it wasn't for me. And it's just like, fair, some of his balls in have been fantastic. It's a fair statement. But also, you have to read the subtext there. And my thing is that, on one hand, Julien Gressel, he is a fan favorite, and I love him. He's an incredible player, and at the end of the day, I think the team's better with him in it. So I want to go ahead and put that out there. I think Atlanta United is a better team, especially if you play with the back three, if Julien Gressel's your right wing back. That being said, there is also a bit of players trying or acting like they're bigger than the club. And I think a little bit of that is coming into context with Julien Gressel, in that you don't want a player in the locker room who's constantly complaining about their salary, and that's something that was starting to happen. And players don't talk about that. Joseph's like, I don't care, not my problem. I focus on me, and that's what I like. I like players like Joseph, who they have the ego, but they also know it's about the team, and they're highly competitive. Julien Gressel is kind of starting to seem like a guy maybe buys into his own ego a little bit, or I'm glad that he believes that he's as good as the rest of them. You have to have that mindset to be a top player.
Yeah.
But also, you have to understand that it's about the team as well. And in this case, I'm glad Atlanta United moved him on, because you don't need a player like that in your locker room that's clearly upset, that clearly has issues. And at the end of the day, if he wanted to be in Atlanta, he would have waited, because he knows as well as we do that the CBA could change a lot of things, and he could have gotten paid. He could have. Atlanta United made him an offer, and like Carlos Bocanegra said, if they wanted to, they wouldn't have traded him. They could have just sat him here and didn't do anything. But they let him go, admittedly to a team that I wish he hadn't have gone to.
That's a big sticking point for me is, like, I would have loved for him to go to a Western Conference team if it was in MLS.
Like Vancouver, where we don't play.
And or even like a Montreal Impact or something like that, where it's like a little bit innocuous at the moment, at least. I don't know how Thierry Henry is going to maybe bring them up into some bigger heights, but DC United is a team that we've had a lot of trouble with, and Yamil Assad over there as well, and Julien Gressel. There already have been a contingent of players that have moved on to DC United, and it's fairly annoying that they covet our players so much, but it is definitely...
well, they want what's good, and they clearly see that being good is getting Atlanta United players. But I think for me, the final point with Julien Gressel is that if he wanted to be in Atlanta, he'd still be in Atlanta. I think he knows as well as, like I said, that he could have gotten a better offer after the CBA, but he wanted to go before. And the bit that strikes me as hilarious is that he said he would have been unhappy playing on his current salary. As of right now, he is playing the season on his current salary, and DC have said they will give him a new contract, but as of yet, that has not happened. I'm curious to see when it does, and I hope he does get that contract, because he does deserve it. But Atlanta United, I think, in my opinion, made the right decision. Club comes first, and you cannot have players throwing their toys out of the pram, which clearly Julien Gressel would have been doing had he stayed.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, we and a good bit of the fan base was also like, okay, he maybe had to, kind of stand firm so that LA United would kind of have to, have the ball in their court, make the actual decision. And, I mean, unfortunately, it means that Julien Gressel is a DC United player. And, part of a lot of the fan base is happy that he might eventually get paid. But, I mean, I think we would all rather that he was an Atlanta United player.
I'd rather, we said it on this podcast before. I've said it, you said it. He could have been a future club captain here.
Yeah.
He had the chance to stay here.
Yep.
And yes, it is a lot of money. $500,000 a year is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. That offer could have gone up $600-700 maybe, depending on what happens in the CBA. But he did not want to wait, and for me, that's a sticking point. He did not want to wait to see what would happen in the CBA. So for me personally, it seems more about money and the ego than it did about staying in Atlanta.
And to be fair, though, I mean, a player could be injured tomorrow, and it'd be a season or career-ending injury.
That's fair, but that doesn't change the fact that right now he's still getting paid the same amount of money.
Sure, but the main crux of it, I think, is that he wanted to feel actually like a priority, which I guess LA United did not make him feel that way, and so and maybe the negotiations really just soured so much that he just felt like it was irreparable, and so it maybe is the case, and that's very unfortunate. Hopefully, we again have some better finesse in these type of negotiations, and also dealing with fan bases in terms of that. So hopefully that does improve. But that's probably, it's one of this offseason has been very trying for a lot of fans. So I think in terms of that, there definitely needs to be improvement from the club in that regard.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to the Joseph thing then. So Joseph Martinez at least has been monitored by Newcastle United. This is kind of a fairly old story, but it was kind of rehashed because of a live blog by Lee Ryder, the Newcastle United pretty much like chief writer of the club for the Chronicle. And so he pretty much mentioned that they basically have looked at him pretty heavily, but that's one of the cases of he's a great player. He's always going to be scouted around the world, and so it's not really a big deal. I don't think we should fear that Joseph Martinez is leaving.
No, he's already making a decent check here, and I think that if there was a chance of him leaving and he's like, hey, I'd like some more money, he'd get that money here. Also, Newcastle can't afford him. Like, the price tag on Joseph Martinez is 35, 40 million, if not more.
Starting at,
and it's January, so we'd gouge him even for more. And also, we have, as we talked about literally this time last year, the yearly takeover rumors for Newcastle have kicked up into gear again, and apparently the Prince of Saudi Arabia is going to be buying Newcastle. So we'll wait for 3 weeks, and this rumor will inevitably fall through as every other takeover bid goes. But yeah, I don't think anyone has to worry about Joseph leaving, especially, you know, Atlanta is familiar. He's at home here. He wants to be here. Exactly. I don't see him going anywhere.
Yeah, and exactly. That's the main part, is that
Joseph Martinez leaving would literally send every Atlanta United fan over the edge. Like, myself included. I've tried to remain pretty calm throughout this offseason. If Joseph Martinez leaves, I do not care if everyone riots. Twitter will burn to the ground, and everyone, I think, would rightly question, what are you doing, front office?
Right.
What are you doing?
And so the very, I would say even like, it's not even 1% possibility. It's so low that, yeah, it's just, and especially this window or even the summer window or even the next winter window.
Joseph seems to be a guy to me that he's going to play here for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
he said so as much of, as he said himself, pretty much that he's like, yeah, if they want me, I want to be here. And so,
and unless Atlanta just changes tune overnight and immediately starts running themselves like Orlando, he will always be wanted. He will always be needed, because you don't find a 30-goal-a-season goal scorer just hanging on trees and, oh, we'll pick this guy out today and we'll put him in the team.
And that wants to play in Atlanta,
and it wants to
MLS.
Be here. You just don't find that kind of player laying around very often. So, yeah.
The other guy is maybe Carlos Vela. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, there's a kit leak, which is kind of the actual full.
It's a physical picture.
It's a physical picture, exactly. And so, not the shorts, not the back yet, but you at least see the design, and you can see it on screen right now. It's a secondary kit. It's the one that we'll have this year, and
it's a replica. This is the replica kit.
This is the replica. There will be a star for the authentic, so they say anyway, and there will be kind of a kit reveal unveiling February 5th and 6th for season ticket holders, and also you can get that on the 6th at the official team store. So,
come see me.
Right,
I'll be there.
Right. But in terms of what are your thoughts on this kit leak, and
I mean, I think that there's some interesting parts in the design. I'm curious to see what the authentic looks like. My gut, going off of what happens a lot with the authentics, I would gander that you might see a gold lining around the neck, kind of how we have with the King Peach and with the star and stripes, is that there's always that little bit of a liner around the neck and along the sleeves. I'd like it a lot if there was a gold liner along the neck and the sleeve. I think that'd be a really nice touch.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is it looks like, and we're not entirely certain yet, but it looks like they've managed to put the 5-stripe design back into the shirt in a very interesting way, with this little squiggly design in some of the stripes and just a solid stripe on the others. So I think if you can kind of blend that in, that's a very interesting take. And I think I'm fine with the colors. It's gold and white, but I'm curious to actually get my hands on it and see what it looks like, hopefully before the rest of you guys. Haha, but we'll see what happens.
But yeah, and it might have kind of like the King Peach, where it's pretty meshy on the back, where it allows the players.
At least with the authentics, that wouldn't shock me if it did that. That's definitely been something that they've been going by way of authentic jerseys, is having that mesh light back and having the solid back.
So it's less heavy for the players. Obviously, I mean, it's pretty see-through for any of the fans that are wearing it. And so if it's summer and you're sweating, good luck. But
it's white.
Yeah, exactly. But
wear an undershirt.
The herringbone design, when you see it up close, I feel like in terms of what that is, I kind of like it, but it is, I think for me, I kind of had a love-hate with the strawberry and concrete. And King Peach, I mean, initially I didn't love it, but I grew to like it. I think it comes to the degree where eventually we just all get the kit anyway, because you see it on the players and you just kind of grow to love it. And you might be steadfast and you might be like holding, saying that you're never gonna get it, and that barf emoji, but I don't know.
It looks like one of those I gotta get my hands on it first to see it, and once I get my hands on it, I can look at it and it's sitting in front of me, then I can be like, okay, I like this or I don't. And even last year's Star and Stripes, if I'm being perfectly honest, when I first pulled it out of the box the day before the kit reveal, I was looking at it and I was just like, Not a fan. But now it's grown on me. Like, I'm used to it now, and I like it. There's little details about it that I like. There's some things I still don't like, but like, it grows on me, and I think that's how it goes with a lot of kits. It's rare that like you're just like, that kit's doo-doo. And to be fair, that's how I felt about the concrete and strawberry. I just don't like gray kits, so it's just like, that one has never grown on me. I very rarely will wear that kit.
I like the fit of the strawberry and concrete. I think that's for me was the main thing. And King Peach I think fit really well as well. I mean, really all the Atlanta United kits except for the 2017 one. Like, that one fits the oddest for some reason.
Yeah, the original 5-stripe just fit tight. Although it also looks like a bit of a return of the V-neck as well, and I've always liked the V-neck in the shirt, just me personally.
And so, you know, let us know what you think of it below in the comments. But, and that was a leak from our boy Larry Luke. But anyway, so moving on from that, the kind of almost weekly Paraguayan pair updates is here, and basically the latest is that sources are saying from Roberto Rojas that Arzamendia and Biasanti are still on standby. The plan is that Arzamendia would go to Atlanta United reportedly, and that Cerro Porteño still need to sell to strengthen the squad. And so if it were that Villalba came in, I mean, yeah, they sell, but then do they bring in a player like Villalba who would probably command much more than both of them on wages?
In terms of wages, yeah.
So it's maybe difficult to see it kind of come to fruition, but it still could be a possibility.
And one of those things that Roberto Rojas also mentioned was that with the other, what was it? I'm forgetting. I'm talking about the other team that he was linked to. I don't want to butcher. There we go. I don't want to go back-to-back weeks and absolutely butcher a team's name, so I'll just let you say it.
Necaxa.
Yeah, Necaxa. Jeez. I owned it. Anyway, he mentioned that it could be a loan deal with an obligation option to buy for Tito going to them. So it's like, that's something that's interesting as well. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely interesting. But
I just don't know if Atlanta United would do that type
unless
of
it was an obligation to buy. Like one of those things where it's just like, you have him as a loan and then you'll just pay us later type of thing. And, but like you said, with Cerro Porteño, it just doesn't make sense. If it's a swap, then maybe, but also like you said, the wages. He's on a lot of money, especially for a team in Paraguay.
Exactly. I mean, you pretty much probably, I don't know what both of them make, but I would gander a guess that he probably makes what both of them combined. Yeah. So, unfortunately, I don't know. We'll see on that. But moving on from that, there's a new way to watch Atlanta United in the CONCACAF Champions League, and it's going to be picked up by pretty much Fox Sports in English for the next 3 years. So that's great news in one respect. Yeah, Fox Sports can be a little bit unreliable at times, but I think on the whole, having this option for kind of the English-speaking fans definitely brings more optics and a better, probably, kind of the entire production value that we kind of seek and crave from a prestigious competition like this. And maybe there is a little bit a boost in kind of, hopefully anyway, prize money. Doubt it, but it probably just goes right into the pockets.
Doesn't take much, to be fair. Yeah, it's CONCACAF. Probably just disappears right into the pockets.
Probably right into their pockets. But anyway, that's good news, and I think, yeah, for Atlanta United, you know, one of the probably more premier Atlanta or MLS clubs in the competition in terms of people that actually watch MLS. In terms of that, it's really great news for that. So I think it's not too bad. But anyway, some CBA news in terms of that, where we're down to the wire, and it
expires on the 31st, which as of today, we're recording the 28th, is 3 days from now, but we're recording at night, so basically 2 days from now.
Yeah, and so if this is likely to happen, I have no idea, but it is not looking good.
I don't know. I don't know what happens in 3 days' time when that CBA's up and it takes over to February 1. Like, do we stop preseason training? Like,
yeah, it's
what happens?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if there's a lockout, holy crap. Yeah, this is gonna get real crazy. But and so,
MLS almost as bad at negotiating as Ed Woodward.
But you will definitely hear from us and all the updates on that. Regarding all that. But Jeff Lorenowitz kind of talked about the CBA and what he thinks of TAM. He said, quote, "I think a world without TAM is a better world. You got to do a couple backflips and a somersault to get that money. I think that the dollars are good. How they're restricted is not good."
I love him.
Yeah, and so he, yeah, I mean, you know, he, after he and his, I guess, you know, his side won the kind of penalty shootout in preseason. He did that ridiculous dance.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what compelled him, but I mean, there there are shades of Jeff Larentowicz, and if you're not paying attention, I mean, he will do some absolutely funny shit that will blow your mind.
He has that dry, just witty, quick delivery humor.
Yeah. It's amazing, but anyway, yeah, he goes on in an athletic article saying some of the key issues for players for the upcoming CBA. You can read it, but essentially, I mean, it's what it's the travel issues, the TAM issues, the free agency issues that they're just trying to get some of that control back, because that last CBA that they signed really boned them, and so they're just trying to get a little bit of the power back. So, hopefully...
MLS just irritates the piss out of me, man.
Yep.
Just make it less complicated, because he's so right. You have to do backflips and somersaults and then, find your way backwards through a game of Jumanji or something to figure out how to actually put a roster together. And it's just what the hell? Make it slightly less complicated. I love Football Manager. And I refuse to even play MLS sides in Football Manager because it is so confusing. And I'm just I cannot be asked to do it. I just cannot be asked to do it. I just don't care. Too complicated. Fix it.
It's fair. It is fair. I mean, but anyway, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a #United shirt and not an Atlanta United shirt, okay, we got some crap last week because Mark wore a Monterrey shirt on this show, and Fair. I mean, but like I said, just judge. I said it in the comments, I think. Anyway, just judge what I wear. Just don't judge what anybody on this side wears.
I had someone give me this wonderful Saprissa shirt, and I said I would wear it, and I'm wearing it. It has a frog and about 15 sponsors.
Right. But anyway, so why I'm wearing a #United shirt? There's a video up in this card you should check out that I shot for them over, I think, a week and a half ago, and so yeah. Lots of fun, and they gave me a shirt as well, so, repping them, and they're absolutely a dope YouTube channel, and the whole idea is insane. Just check them out. It's awesome.
What's crazy is where, not to get off on a tangent here, but seeing where Spencer Owens started as, if you know, way back in the day, early FIFA, early 2010s,
he was
where he was
FIFA player,
the FIFA player, and he basically wore a cutoff hoodie and a mask and ran around playing people in FIFA.
And he said some pretty defamatory things.
He said some crazy shit. To where he is now, he's
Nice
involved.
guy of YouTube.
He's just the nice guy. He has an incredible project that is #United. He's involved in the FA Cup. He does stuff with esports for FIFA. He has done so much good for the game, both in terms of e-gaming and just in general. So yeah, #United, definitely check them out.
Yeah. Anyway, tangent over. Back to Atlanta United, and so the schedule starting 11 against the Philadelphia Union on Wednesday has been announced by the AJC, and it's Guzan. Between the sticks, it's Escobar, Robinson, and Mesa adds to the three-man back line. Lennon and Mulroney as the wingbacks. Remedi and Heineman as the center mids. Barco, PT, Joseph as the forward line. And so, yeah, three-man in the back, wingbacks, definitely different from what it was at least on Friday against the New York Red Bulls. It was, I mean, it looked like apparently it was a 4-2-3-1. I have my doubts whether it actually was, but in terms of what that was for the kind of starting 11 nerds out there, Raguzan, of course, in the sticks. In between the sticks, Castillo as the left back, Mesa, Robinson, and Escobar filling out that back line. Eric Remedi, Mo Adams in midfield. Brooks, Lennon, Barco, and PT as the attacking midfielders, and Joseph Martinez up top. So that looked like it was pretty fluid as well. It could have been where Castillo and Lennon were the wingbacks. But either way, that was reported on MLSsoccer.com as a 4-2-3-1. Very interesting. I mean, it seems like, yeah, there's still, at least for the confirmed one for tomorrow, because we're filming this on Tuesday, yeah, the three-man in the back with wingbacks, it seems like it's something that we're persisting with and we're not changing from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that actually DeBoer touched on when the team was still in Atlanta, is that he wants the team to be able to fluidly transition between a back three and a back four within matches. That's something that you don't see a lot at the MLS level, especially if it's a full tactical shift within a game, because because you can within a system, go into a back three when you're in possession and go into a back four when you're defending and stuff like that. But I still think that my gut is that this team's base formation going into the season is going to be a 3-5-2 again, or some variant of that. And I think that the ability to switch into a back four and be comfortable is very important, because as we saw last year with injuries, you don't know what happens. The team is a little bit thin at some positions, so being able to switch in between the two, especially during a match, is going to be something that really helps Atlanta United going forward. But still, a 2-1 win in preseason versus the Red Bulls is nice, because, well, beating the Red Bulls in anything is nice, especially when it's the playoffs. Apparently that's the only time we can do it.
Yeah, but, in preseason as well, so not too bad. And Joseph Martinez and Ezequiel Barco scored those goals.
I think that's going to be a combination you see a lot this year.
Yeah, I think so. And, there was some video of Joseph Martinez's goal, and, it was kind of well worked throughout the team, and then it was finished off. I mean, it wasn't a direct assist, it seemed like, anyway, because there was a touch from the defender for the goal, but it was Lennon with the cross, and then Joseph Martinez kind of just slammed it home. I mean, it was
doing what he does.
Yeah, quite a goal. But anyway, so moving on from that, the mystery man that everybody was asking about, number 28, has been finally found out, and it is midfielder Tyler Wooffies, an academy player. He had just really actually come in, and he's 16. Yeah, man-child.
He's big. Like, he's big for that age.
Yeah, but
you don't take a...
How tall were you when you were 16, though?
I was 6'3".
So there we go.
Yeah, so I was 6'3".
So
yeah. Yeah.
So it's possible. It's definitely within the realm of possibility.
To be fair, I was like 6'1.5", 6'2" at 13. So like I was.
Dear Lord.
I was really. If you've met me and you've seen me, I'm just really tall.
6'5"?
I'm 6'5".
6'5". Yeah, exactly. So those of you that always wonder like, how tall is AJ? And it's just like, I'm like pretty like average height / like on the tall side, and at least for Asian people. But
you said it, not me.
Yeah, but Jesus Christ, like this, It's
because we're sitting down. I have very long legs and long arms, small torso.
Right.
Just
But anyway, so
nice note on him though. You don't bring along a guy his age on preseason unless he has potential and you see quality in him. So the fact that FDB has brought him along and sees him as someone he wants to be involved in preseason training, I think that says a lot for him. So we'll see what happens. But if he's there and he does well, then maybe he's a player that maybe makes a few first-team appearances this year.
Right, and he's not the only guy. Will Riley was also another one of those guys that was part of the preseason trip as well. He's also a midfielder. And so, there's probably countless other guys that we haven't spotted quite yet because we're just hawks, scoping out every bit of information, enhancing 1000% like Blade Runner.
Enhance.
Anyway, so moving on from that, LA United finally announced the loan deal for Andrew Carleton to Indy 11. Best of luck to him. I think, that change of scenery is definitely something good for him. And I think, I still think he has oodles of talent. It's just a matter of just kind of getting it all together and getting that consistency. And I think there is that difference. LA United 2 haven't been as competitive. Indy 11 are definitely very competitive, and he will really have to fight for his places. That will make him kind of really try to up that echelon a little higher. Because I feel like when he was playing for LA United, the first team, he definitely stepped up higher, and the performances, at least, kind of the final balls, it looked like it was. It looked like fairly at some point, he was pretty close to being ready, and that's why he was on the fringes of the 18s when he was able to, really get it together. So
I think this is an important year for Andrew Carleton.
Right.
Carlos Bocanegra said that they believed it was time for him to challenge himself in a new environment, and I think that's true because it seemed like maybe a little bit that regardless of what it was, for some reason he wasn't developing to the speed that Atlanta United wanted, maybe he himself wanted. And I think this is a big year for him, like you said, a chance to go out and compete in a competitive team. If he can establish himself, fight his way into that 11, play consistently 30-plus games for Indy 11 this year, it could really spark the confidence in both him personally and in terms of his development to where he can come back next year and really push for a spot with Atlanta United. And that might be important because you could see the likes of PT or Barco going. And if you have an Andrew Carleton who showed this competitive desire and this step up in terms of his development development and his professionalism, that could be a real boon for Atlanta United. So best of luck to Andrew Carleton. I hope he absolutely tears it up in the USL and in Indianapolis for Indy 11 this year, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And plus, still only 19.
Still only 19.
Yeah. But anyway, Atlanta United 2 also announced, they announced the signings of 4 new players, rather. And they've signed 25-year-old defender Modou Dama, and he comes from Timbers 2, has a good bit of experience, and so that's a really, I think, a boon for Atlanta United 2 in terms of a guy that has experience around this league and a little bit of MLS experience. They've also announced the signing of Ford Lamine Jana. He was a dream tryout, kind of, at least, I would say he's a winner of a dream tryout. I mean, definitely if you get a contract with Atlanta United 2, that's pretty great. And also 24-year-old goalkeeper Ben Lundgaard from the Columbus Crew. He was on loan with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds for the 2019 season. And that's a 24-year-old guy. That's someone that will replace some of the depth that we've lost in terms of Dylan Castanera, who now is with Inter Miami. So we need to replenish that depth. We still, of course, have Brendan Moore and of course Alec Cam. So, but and then finally, I'm sure this won't be the last move, but there have been plenty of moves already. Fullback Bradley Camden-Fiwo also was announced as a new signing. He came from the St. Louis FC side in the USL. So lots of guys. A few Gambians in that mix. Really cool to see. I think, following them on social media, it's been really interesting seeing them like buddy around, and I feel like that's really going to be, I think, good for the locker room, and having that kind of that contingency that really, I think, will enjoy playing with each other.
I think something that's important seeing this is that they're trying to find experience, and I think they're really trying to make a statement of making Atlanta United 2 more competitive. I think they learned from the first season and really first half of last season as well, that just basically using it as like your second academy team and just having them play as professionals isn't good for their development. They need other professionals around them, and you can take the good academy players and then bleed them in and have them in that professional environment. And by being more competitive, it pushes them to be more competitive and then better prepares them to eventually make the first team. So I think that Atlanta United 2, they're looking to definitely do more in USL and not be the whipping boys, and unfortunately they have been at times. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully that it can all start coming together, and it can really, maybe there's less academy players playing, but the ones that do, they're really going to start getting tempered for the first team. Right.
They will probably definitely have to have earned it, and so I think that is the mindset, it seems like, with getting that experience, probably more of a core kind of maybe 11, maybe 13, 14 set of players, so that they're not always short and they're
constantly playing different players in different positions and stuff.
Exactly, because that could be very tough, and that's kind of partially why they've kind of seen the way it go. But that pretty much does it for the news. Oh my God, that was another week of just a lot of stuff.
Preseason has a lot of news. I feel like it gets easier once the season gets going. We just talk about the games, a little bit of news, and preview the next game, and we're good to go.
Right. But hopefully next time there are more signings that come in. Who knows? But anyway.
Or a CBA, we're talking about there being a lockout.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Please no.
But anyway, that gets us to our buy or sell segment, and simply we put up an Atlanta United topic and we give our reasons why we buy or sell it. First topic is that Atlanta United 2 will have more points than Atlanta United in 2020. Buy or sell. I know, fairly ridiculous of a topic, but we're going to entertain it.
Well, I think that, as we just kind of touched on, Atlanta United 2 is really improving in terms of the players they're signing, how they're trying to construct the roster and the team. So I think there will be a marked improvement for the 2s this year going forward. I think that they're going to start doing a lot better and, finishing higher up the table in USL. That being said, for them to have more points than Atlanta United, I think it would either A, means that they've had an incredible season that no one saw coming, or B, Atlanta United has had a very poor season by all measures that we currently have. I don't see either of those happening. I think that they will improve, but also I don't think Atlanta United, even if they don't have a great season, are still going to be in the 50-plus point range, and I just don't see ATL UTD 2 hitting that mark.
Yeah, so you sell it. I definitely sell it as well, but it is an interesting thought, maybe with how doom and gloom everybody is, not everybody, but a lot of the fans that are seeing all these kind of the players exiting the club are feeling. And yeah, still, there's definitely a lot of talent on this squad, and there's room for improvement as well. And so Atlanta United, I think, yeah, like you were saying, 50-point range definitely is the territory that not only we should be aiming for and exceeding that, but I think that's our floor. So it's hopefully the case. Yeah, if Atlanta United 2 gets 50 points, I mean, that's an incredible
great.
season. And that's really, really great. That's where, I don't know, maybe they should be, getting more looks in terms of those players with LA United if that was the case in terms of some of the 18s and stuff like that. So hopefully it is sell like we both said. But next by our sell topic, Julien Gressel will have more assists than Brooks Lennon in 2020. Now, they're not direct replacements, obviously, but I think it is kind of right wing back. If we are playing with 3 men in the back, it is a little bit like for like.
So it's a bit of a caveat here because I think it depends on the system. But if my gut's right, and I think that Atlanta is going to run with the back 3, then it is going to be a like for like. I'm actually going to sell. I think Brooks Lennon can end up with more assists than Julien Gressil this year. I think that Atlanta United, personally, I think maybe we have some issues in different areas of the pitch, but I just have a gut feeling that you're going to see large steps made by both Ezequiel Barco and PC Martinez in terms of goal scoring. And I think that Brooks Lennon is a player that is highly rated, and I think he's going to be getting a lot of balls into the box, but also with the hockey assist, if you have more goals coming out of midfield and he's the one giving that cut back, then I think you could see him getting double-digit assists this year. And I'd be lying if I said I also didn't want to see him get more assists than Julien Gressil as well at this point.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I want Brooks Lennon to get more assists than Gressel, but I think I buy that Julien Gressil will have more assists. But
it also helps us Joseph Martinez here.
Yeah, but I think it's marginal. I think it's like a 9 assist season for Gressel, and it's like a 7 or 8 for Brooks Lennon.
I'd take that.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a hell of a season for Brooks Lennon, and if you can sprinkle in some goals in there, I think it's not too bad from a wingback. And so I think the main thing is that Gressel, I think he kind of mentioned with the Extra Time Radio interview was that it took him a while to kind of acclimate with Joseph Martinez, and so it might be the same for Brooks Lennon, but it also might be the same for Gressel in DC with Ola Kamara. And so with that, I mean, I think you won't see kind of the elite numbers that Gressel has been putting up in yesteryear. I think it will be a little bit less, but I think the real conversation is maybe 2021. So anyway, so that does it for buy or sell and gets us to the mailbag. And you guys send in these questions through IG story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. Sorry, it's just a lot of
We've
saliva.
talked a lot today. Ooh. So a lot of talking, a lot of news that really gets everything going.
Running out of saliva in my mouth. So
yes.
Anyway, sorry for that picture in your minds, guys. But first question comes from Spun Pedo. Reinvent the wheel only after 15 months of championships. Why?
So first off, shout out to you for buying me the shirt, because that's who got me the shirt. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say reinvent the wheel on the whole thing. I think that for a lot of Atlanta United fans, it's been understandably frustrating, especially with the way that the club has been handling things. I definitely frustrated with some of the moves myself, but I want to wait and see what the front office does. I want to wait and see what roster we have going into Champions League. If there are still gaps and things haven't been addressed and the quality hasn't been replaced, then I too am going to have frustrations. But I want to give the front office the benefit of the doubt. I want to give them time to bring in more players. And from the noises they're making, they would like to bring in some more players. So I'm going to give them some time. We'll see what happens, but change is always part of life when you're a soccer fan. Especially at MLS level, the club from the get-go has been honest in what they said this club's going to be. We're just experiencing that first bit of change right now, and it's tough. But, like I said to a customer, that came into the team store, 15 years from now, we'll have 10 more Julien Gressels that have left the club that have been fan favorites that we've loved, that have been great for 2 or 3 seasons and have gone. So it's the first of a few heartbreaks, and we're going to have to get used to that.
Yeah, and it is sort of like a college type of thing where 2 or 3 years, maybe even 1 year, you love a player and they have to leave for one reason or another. There is the salary cap thing that is a kind of huge cloud over all MLS clubs, and so this is partially why some of these players have left or are rumored to leave. There is the kind of part and parcel of when you start a club, then you have contracts that kind of run out during a period of time. But I think it's all these factors kind of coming into play. It's Frank de Boer having his choice of players a little bit. It's Carlos Bocanegra also, giving him the options of which players that he wants and which players to keep and which ones he would actually use in which systems. And so it is all, I think, kind of a part of it. And so there's always, yes, going to be turnover. If if you're not prepared for this, I'm sorry.
It's going to keep happening.
Yeah, it's going to keep happening. But it doesn't mean that it's okay to just be selling all of these players in terms of some of the ones that maybe that you feel like we absolutely need. But so far, besides LGP. And Darlington Nagbe, kind of forcible one, but it's ones that we've kind of sold from a place of depth, or at least we kind of were in the view of maybe making a move that's either cheaper or more longer term.
Yeah.
So.
And that's not to say that you can't. I don't want to come off as saying you shouldn't feel bad about these things.
Yeah,
absolutely, you should feel bad. It sucks. It's just one of those things that stinks. But also it's one of those things that happens, and I think raging against the club, as I've seen definitely some people on Twitter, that's not gonna help things, and it's just gonna keep happening. So we'll just have to find the new players, and hopefully they step up, and we get new players that become fan favorites. So that's the nature of the game.
It is though, they are not without criticism. If they don't hit on the moves that they make, then we have every right to really criticize any of the things that happen. So.
Look, to also make it perfectly straightforward with everyone in the audience, I'm a fan of Manchester United. None of this shit compares to when we sold Ronaldo. And I knew it was going to happen, and it still sucked. He's an Arsenal fan. Even more suck, because they just sold all their best players to rivals. So both of us are slightly just, soured by the world. We've been through we've seen some shit in terms of great players leaving.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that, and that's a tangent that we could go on. Not interested in it. But next question comes from Orel Oscar. Before the team had its name, what were other possible names?
I have no idea.
So, I don't think we're privy to a lot of those ones that they were trying out, but I think some of the ones that were thrown about on social media definitely were Phoenix Rising, Terminus Legion, kind of things that were in the history of Atlanta, like Resurgence a little bit as well, I believe, kind of were bandied about. There are some Outcast related ones that have been hilarious that you can, I think, look up in the past on Google. But in terms of the actual ones, I think it's just unfortunate that they chose LA United FC for a reason, and why they would put out the other ones that were the ones that were possible. Not really possible, probably, but anyway. So next question comes from Amber M71. Why don't I see pictures of Anton Walks at training? Didn't he join the team? So he's still in England. He hasn't come to preseason yet with LA United. I think he's still kind of on his winter break or his on holiday essentially. And so he will be joining LA United this week, reportedly from the ADC. So we'll see him, and hopefully he gets integrated quickly. Because it's a couple weeks and he's got to really get right in the swing of things. But he's been playing pretty much through this winter period anyway, at least with Portsmouth or Pompey. But that's my Necaxa. But anyway, so he will be joining soon. So next question comes from William P 1928. Are you really born in 1928? Wow.
If so, you're the oldest Twitter user I've ever met.
But or Instagram user. But
92 years old.
Wow. So
did I do my math right? Is that maths?
Is that maths? Almost. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Quick maths.
Anyway, so how much actually changes in terms of tactics and formation if Tito leaves? I think
nothing really.
Yeah, interesting in terms of like starting 11, not a whole lot. I think if you're starting him in a 4-man back line and he's a right winger maybe, but largely, I mean, he's kind of that super sub, or he's the first guy off the bench. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's unfortunate. I mean, he could start for most MLS clubs, like I've said. So, next question comes from Tim Lim, 1776. Okay, you're definitely not born in 1776.
You're definitely not born in 1776.
All right, how much money does Carlos have to work with as far as bringing in more players?
Here's where the whole MLS thing comes in. Like salary caps and how, transfer fees are amortized into the, salary and the budget charge of players and how much allocation money we actually have, and no idea, because it's just made so needlessly complicated.
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of allocation money, we have a lot of that. And then if we sell Tito Villalba, we will have even more because we bought down his contract with TAM money as well. And so, yeah, there's a lot to play with. The question is really, for me, is what are we going to do with it? Are we going to bring in a player that's elite for MLS and someone that can play midfield? Please. But yeah, in terms of that, there should be a lot. And then in terms of transfer fees, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's really an issue. I mean, in terms of DPs, that's really the only thing that comes into play, and that's where, yes, it would be difficult for us to spend kind of DP money, transfer fee money in that sense, and be able to bring them into the squad because we have 3 DPs.
From my maths of looking at it, I think in terms of like salary, I think there's quite a bit in terms of salary that we can play with in terms of, I think, what we've lost in maths there. Like, I think we could definitely get a couple more players in that are on a solid salary, especially with that allocation money.
Right.
So.
I mean, some guys have gotten raises, Robinson and Hyndman and stuff like that, but yeah, I think there's still a fair amount to play with. So, last question comes from Sheaves77. Do we have enough talent to execute the complicated style of football that FDB wants?
I think sub the word complicated for technical, because it definitely relies on players being very technically good on the ball in terms of the passing and the movement and stuff like that. I think you have a lot of players that fit that mold. I think it's another reason why, not saying he's not technically good because he is, but in a different way, why you feel okay parting with the Tito Villalba because he doesn't fit the style of play that you're looking for. I think that Atlanta has some good players, but as we've mentioned before and Carlos Bocanegra's mentioned, I think the biggest missing piece for this team right now is a central midfielder. Someone that can sit deep, play defensively, a person, whether it is Villasanti or not, in that mold, that can do that work, that's younger. You need someone there. I think for me, that's what you need right now in terms of having that team that can compete and can play in that technical style.
Yeah, I think, in terms of that, though, I think for Larry in that position, kind of as our main guy that can do that can sit in the middle. Maybe Mo Adams is kind of that heir apparent that they're looking at. Maybe that's why they kept him in the super draft.
But also, is he that technical player? Yeah,
and I don't know if he is. I have my doubts, unfortunately, but hopefully he surprises me. But I think it's in terms of someone that is brought in. I think it's that person that can hold possession, that can control the game, that can give that ball to our forwards on a consistent basis. Essentially Nagby, but someone maybe that isn't exactly, because obviously replacing Nagby is going to be hella difficult.
It's impossible.
But at least someone that can control possession, I feel like, is even more paramount because, yeah, Larry is there, and so hopefully he can last the entire season.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the age. So, yeah, having someone that can dictate play from the middle of the park, that's important. I think that's the one thing in terms of, are they good enough right now? Need that central midfielder, I think, to really make you that team.
Yeah, to dictate things, I'm a little bit worried. That's the main part that I'm worried about.
Hyndman and Remedi are not the guys to do that.
Right, and I think maybe some more goals from the wings, possibly.
I think if you can get the goals from, some more goals from PD and Barco this year, and you got to look at the stats. What was it? Only 7 or 8 games last year that all 3 of the DPs played together out of 34 league games. So it's just like, if you can get all 3 of those guys playing, 28 to 30 games together, you'll see a lot more goals, I think. And all three of those players up front being Joseph, PT, and Barco, very technically gifted, very good, can very much play in the system that DeBoer wants to implement.
Yeah. So that does it for the mailbag and pretty much the entire show except for the question of the day. What do we got?
And guys, with the rumors of Tito Villalba being on the move and most likely leaving Atlanta United, the question today is, which player departure hurts you the most should Tito leave? Nagbe, LGP, Tito, or Gressel? Get down in the comments below and let us know how much pain you're in.
Yeah. But guys, that's it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button and share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Tanner, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.